from London, boyz. Yes, once again, it returns to the airwaves, broadcasting globally across the ether that is the World Wide Web. Welcome to the number one car show with no pictures that is broadcast from the southwest London area. Whether you're trying to work out if you can get another 10,000 miles out of your 1985 Nissan Bluebird, the answer there is probably yes, or you've got the budget to purchase a Tesla and then forget to charge it, we are the show with all the answers. This week, we've got a super duper classic in our classic car selection. It's a design by Alec Zigonis that isn't the Mini or the Morris Minor. And it went on to become the best selling car in Britain of the late 1960s and early 1970s. That's going to keep you guessing. We're going to have some thrilling roads to uncover in the Lost Highway section. And we'll be peeking at my bulging sack as usual with your correspondence in my mailbag.
Ooh, we'll open up that can of worms later on. Yes, of course, it's the radio show that really should have pictures, but we don't have any time, we don't have any energy because we're getting on a bit. And to be honest, we have no budget either. It's a podcast that the ambassador who ate all the Ferrero Rocher chocolates would choose to listen to. It's the podcast that 8 out of 10 cats would prefer. It's the podcast made with 11 herbs and spices in 57 different varieties. This week we have the fantastic quiz, which this week is called Sister from Another Manufacturista. Okay. Stay tuned for that. We've also got a finger on the current affairs button in the news, and unlike government, we promised not to close Parliament illegally. And we'll be taking time out to ponder the rules of the road when winter sets in. I'm Simon Sutrabon, and I stand by my decision to buy a Mini, even though I'm still heterosexual. And there's a bear in there. There's a chair as well. There's people with games and stories to tell. Open wide. Come inside. It's Play School.
Thank you very much, Brian Cant. And I did say Cant. And I'm Richard Green, so give it up smooth. Ain't telling when I'm down for a jack move. There's a murder rap to keep you all dancing with a crime record like Charles Manson. And this is Car
Boyz.
I wonder if we have to credit NWA and Play School for those lyrics. Probably. Do you have to pay royalties on saying words?
I think yes, possibly.
Really?
Yeah, copyrighted. Yeah, they're copyrighted, aren't they?
Okay. Well, let's just hope we don't get too many complaints and too many subscribers. Yes, thanks for joining the show. This is Car Boyz. Great to have you. Nice you could be here. Now, this week we've been pondering that subject of car insurance. Well, I have. I've been talking to a Canadian that told me in Quebec, or as they said, Quebec, you automatically get insurance for personal injury when you pay for your driver's license. Right. So that part of the insurance policy, you don't need to pay it extra for. And it got me thinking, what if when you bought your road tax, and that's a road license fund, a license to have a car on the road, whichever country you're in, you also automatically got a basic level of car insurance, say a third-party foreign theft, that would mean everybody out on the road that's legally out on the road would have cover without exception. So if you had a crash with someone, you can almost guarantee you're insured. And at the moment, the onus is on the owner of the car to get it insured as soon as possible. I've known many unscrupulous drivers who cancel their insurance as soon as they get the road tax or the road fund license on the vehicle, just so they can keep on the road. It's just a thought that may prevent many people having to claim on their own insurance policies for accidents that are no fault of their own. And it would be, I think, a great idea for the kids starting out in the field of motoring, whether you're in your teens and even your 20s. Insurance costs can be astronomical. So how about making sure kids have a basic insurance included with the road tax to get you on the road? So you accidentally clip a car, your insurance will go up for other things, but you've got a basic cover. Now, I think the insurance companies are going to hate me for saying this.
Yeah.
I think they've been scamming the public for decades, personally. I mean, I think that insurance isn't what it is. It's not sold by a very nice man who comes around and makes sure you're safe. It is effectively, and I apply this to actuaries as well. They are giving an insurance policy on the basis that they are going to make money out of you, not crashing.
Absolutely.
It's like playing the stock market. It's like gambling, and then that's why a fair insurance package that insures you and your family and friends. It's about time, I think, people got insurance and got what they paid for. Now, watch as AXA, Zurich, and Allianz set out a contract on my head for saying this. Although I don't know why these insurances, they could be the ones to oversee the project. You could say this is licensed through government. You guys are going to make the money. We're going to say this is the rule. You're going to profit from it. Because maybe your road tax would go up for the basics if you're 17. It'd be slightly lower if you're 45, and obviously if you're really old, it would be astronomical. I think they'd probably profit slightly less than they do now.
But you're probably right, because you think of the insurance premiums at the moment. There is some companies that are saying that they would do protection from uninsured drivers and all that sort of stuff. So they kind of do it in a way anyway, but actually tacking it onto the road fund license, that would make perfect sense. I think you're onto something.
I think it's just sort of a basic. We all know, we're all out there. The police can immediately tell if you don't have road tax on that car,
then you won't have license.
Then you won't have a license, and the car isn't insured. I think it's a sort of a good. I mean, it's going to take somebody with a big pair of kahunas to install this. But as we get further and further away from, everybody's got a car. Everybody's got a car. You know, you can't. There's nobody that doesn't have a car. I drop my kids off at school, and there's a Polish lady who drops her daughter's the same age as my daughter, and she used to come in on the bus. And she said, "I'll come in on the bus, and then I walk home with the pushchair, and and the little one sleeps in the pushchair, and then I come back on the bus." My husband works. I don't really work, but I do this. I do about 6 miles walking every day. I've lost lots of weight. I look great in a new pair of jeans. She's gone and bought a car. I said, "You've bought a new car?" She said, "Yeah. I was struggling. The bus kept breaking down. I couldn't." And I think, yeah. So even somebody that's relatively new to the UK, that they're not a very rich family, they're saying, "Oh, yeah, just get a car. Just get a car. Make life easier." So I think it's going to be the way. It's the way we're all going, unless somebody is going to chuck billions, and I literally mean billions, into public transport. We're all going to end up with cars. Let's just make it a little bit more safer. Would you like some car news music? I've got
please.
Music. Now, think of John Carpenter's Escape from New York or Halloween. This is. Oh, I've knocked the cart wall off. Hang on a second. Here we go. Yeah. So think John Carpenter, Halloween, and Escape from New York. Here we go. As we wait for the thing to kick in. It's going to happen any moment now. John Carpenter's car news. I quite like that.
I thought we had no budget. That's really good.
Yeah, well, we don't. That's why it's royalty free. Carry on.
Car news. And of course, we're going to start off. Oh, we've got more music. We're going to start off with Wankle news. Yes, I did say Wankle news. Mazda has confirmed it will reveal its next generation of rotary engines later this week. They posted an image of the brand's first rotary engine model, the 1967 Cosmos Coupe, accompanied by a new logo for the brand's 7th gen product cluster, whatever that means, and the phrase. At the 2017 Tokyo Motor Show, Mazda boss Mitsu Hitomi, because I know he listens to the show often, voiced plans for the firm to bring back its famed rotary engines as the range extended, because it is much, much quieter than the alternatives.
He didn't say that. He didn't say that. He went, "It's much quieter." That's exactly what he said.
He meant it. It was firm.
Much quieter.
The Japanese firm's range hasn't featured a rotary engine road car since the RX-8, which went out of production in 2012, which is a beautiful car, but it did produce a prototype Mazda 2 featuring the tech back in 2013. Mazda have said that they'd rather than being used in its purest form, the rotary engine will appear in a range extender version for its first electric vehicle due in 2019. The rotary engine, of course, was invented by Felix Wankel, unfortunately named, and went into the now defunct German car manufacturer NSU. Do like a Wankel engine.
Felix Wankel would have found that funny because he was German. She would have said, "That's not funny. My name slightly sounds like Vanka, but it is not funny." Do you know the Wanker? It's a great design. Unfortunately, and even the RX-7 had a habit, as you well know, of blowing up.
Yes.
I was down in West Sussex. On a camping trip in the summer. It wasn't the most exciting. Right under the flight path of Gatwick. So I've left the flight path of Heathrow.
That is exciting.
Flight path of Gatwick. I always like to go on holiday under a flight path. In a tent. But it would have been like a busman's holiday for you. And the guy that ran the farm collected a Wankel engine RX-7s and RX-8s. Both cars, stunningly beautiful car. I think the RX...
Absolutely.
With the suicide rear door,
the doors that open the opposite way, isn't it?
Very, very cool. Very, very cool car.
Yes.
But the engines used to blow up on the RX-7s, and they were massive oil burners, and the MPG was terrible on the RX-8. I had a friend that had one, and he did a year and went, "I cannot afford to run this." But I think a very interesting concept. Because almost like an electric car, it's like all or nothing from what he was telling me. Because am I right in thinking it's a 1.2 litre engine?
Yeah, it's something really, really small. It's like 1 litre or something like that. Yeah. It's really odd.
Obviously, the principle being that it doesn't have a piston and instead has a more fuel efficient triangle within a cylindrical piston. So the piston doesn't go up and down; it spins round and round, which is far more fuel efficient. But I imagine that the increased movement means things can go wrong quite easily.
Almost self-destructing itself.
Yeah, it eats itself. So good for them.
And sound great as well. They sound really good.
Yeah, I think they're a beautiful looking car. But you've got to have lots of money to chuck at them. I think I remember them in the very first X-Men. I think that's when so that'd be 2001. What the heck is this car? It was Wolverine's car. Very, very cool. Moving on, in writing on the War News, Aston Martin has announced it's raised 120 million by issuing bonds as it seeks to improve its financial position. Yeah, I know. Reuters news agency claims that the second round of bonds worth about 80 million could be issued if the company meets its order targets and if it decides it needs additional cash. The announcement comes in the wake of a disappointing financial results. Aston Martin notably posted a £8 million pre-tax loss during the first half of 2019. Its top executives expect they'll continue sailing through choppy waters for the foreseeable future. The factors contributing to Aston Martin's losses include lower than expected sales in Europe and the high cost of expanding the company's footprint into new segments of the market, including some it has never competed in before. Aston Martin floated on the stock market in 2018 at £19 per share. That's currently down to under £6 per share.
That's a hefty drop, isn't it?
In under a year, yeah. Sounds really bad for Aston Martin. Ford pulled out in 2007.
They did.
Cars are now manufactured in Graz, Austria, in conjunction with AMG and Merck. Mercedes own, I think, 6% of the company. Yeah. There's no more manufacturing in Newport Pagnell. And in my opinion, a case of too many different cars and not one really good one.
And they all look very similar, don't they? The from the baby Aston, the V8, right the way up to the big one, which is the Vantage. Is that right?
Yeah,
I can't remember.
I think so.
They're just. It's almost what Land Rover are doing.
Yeah, let's do a million of the same thing, and it all looks the same. Why not just make one superb car, and that's all you do? Go down the road of Morgan. I think they think they're going to keep selling these cars. These cars are incredibly expensive. You know, it's £100,000 plus for an Aston Martin. Your market is super niche, so why not cater for that market? And don't expect the Chinese to keep buying these things or the Americans to keep buying these things. I can remember in the mid-90s where TVR went down this road, and there was a TVR dealership in my hometown.
Really?
Yeah. on the main drag on the Birmingham Road in Stratford-upon-Avon, there was a TVR dealership. And I went, that's amazing. Wow, TVR are going to be, and of course, 10 years later, TVR are defunct.
Russians came after it.
Well, the Russians
it
bought
just
into
went wrong.
it and then went, we can't make any more of this. Bye-bye.
But that's an interesting time because you're absolutely right. Around sort of 95, 96, I think it was when the DB7 came out.
Yeah.
That was only the first real new Aston in however many years. It was quite a long period of time.
Yeah.
And then they released the Vanquish, and then they had the little baby Aston, and then all of a sudden their product ranges increased. And I think that's where I think you're right in saying that's where it's kind of all gone wrong. They've got so many variations of the same product.
I think, well, I don't think the future looks good for them. I think they need to become a specialist niche brand and cater for people at the bottom end of the top end of sports cars and the bottom end of supercars, and that's where they lie.
Which, in many ways, is going back to the roots of what Aston always used to do.
Yeah.
There you go. If you work for Aston Martin, take our advice.
It's just a suggestion. I mean, sad but true. I believe you have some electric car news for us.
Yes, where would the show be without the electric car news? And the top dogs in electric cars, I think, are Volvo. They unveiled a fully electric version of the XC40 small SUV.
Okay.
And that's going to be next month, and has promised that its first electric vehicle would be one of the safest cars ever built. The Swedish firm is aiming... No, that's true.
So it's different product branding from what they've been doing for the past 80 years then.
Exactly, yeah. The Swedish firm is aiming for more than 50% of its sales volume to be fully electric by 2025. The XC40 is one of Volvo's most popular models, and it is a really good car. And it will launch the electric version on the 16th of October, which is a couple of weeks' time from now. Mm-hmm. Very few technical details about the model have been given, but it will follow the EV trend with motors mounted at the front and rear and the battery located under the floor.
Which is what you've been saying for the past 10 weeks.
Cars getting bigger, batteries getting underneath. Volvo has, however, said that it aims to maintain its established reputation for safety with the new model. The car has been reinforced at the rear. Do like a bit of reinforcement at the rear.
Hello.
Through the integration of the electric powertrain into the body structure, with the intent to shift any forces caused in a collision away from the passenger area. The electric XC40 will be the first model fitted with Volvo's new advanced driver assist system, ADAS in short, sensor platform, which is designed to expand autonomous capabilities in the future. Which basically means, in real terms, Volvo are hoping to get 311 miles in one full charge, with the performance exceeding 400 brake horse, which is astonishing.
It is a lot. Can you carry on and talk about this? I think somebody's trying to get into my studio.
Really?
Yeah. Hang on, stay there.
Are you having visitors into the studio? Oh dear. But if you haven't seen the XC40, I think Volvo's reputation for the XC cars, which are the crossovers, is that they are statistically, I don't think a Volvo XC has ever been involved in an accident. Or there's some weird statistic that says no one's ever died in a Volvo XC.
Sorry, it was the man from Amazon trying to deliver something for my wife.
Was that the sequel to The Man from U.N.C.L.E.?
Yeah, the man from Amazon. Dun, 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 dun. It's like the Black Magic Man.
Did you come in a helicopter?
No, just a Ford Transit. I got a parcel for you. At least he didn't throw it over the hedge. That's the usual term. Did you mention while I was out the room about the Dudley Moore film Crazy People?
Oh, I love that film. What was the slogan? The boxy but the good, or something like that.
That's right. So he's an advertising executive who loses his mind, ends up at I think it's like a 1990 film, ends up in an insane asylum, but he's still working as an advertising executive, and his boss goes down. So he's still working. Yeah, I've got some ideas. But he started telling the truth about advertising. And he said, what's the latest one? He goes, Volvo, boxy, but safe.
And the underlined strapline to that was something like, be safe instead of sexy.
And it's brilliant. That's exactly the way advertising has gone. This was like, what is it, 30 years ago? And it's the way, and you look at the new Volvo and you go, that was designed by a child. It just looks I love it. I think the XC40 is a beautiful looking car. I do think it looks very good. The badge looks good. I think it's up there with a Merc. If I was going to buy a sort of 4x4, the SUV, that's the one I'd buy.
Oh, definitely.
I'd buy the electric car. And like you say, it's 400 bhp. It's amazing. 311 miles on one fully charged.
Decent.
It's gonna suit all the mums on the school run. I've been bitching about that. I might do a thing next week about ladies. If you can't drive a giant 4x4 that is bigger than any van that you've ever driven, why not just implore the husband to buy a Honda Jazz or something small?
Bigger than any of your children.
Bigger than any of your, like the width of an old London Routemaster that you can't seem to swing round a corner, even though you've got cameras on every corner and sensors. But just so you can get Joshua in the back and his scooter. Just a thought. Try and buy a car that is fit for purpose. Right. Meanwhile, this could get us deplatform news. Elderly female drivers are almost 3 times more likely to be involved in a road accident after a lifetime of being passengers to their husband. Research shows. The AA study, the Automobile Association study, found out for every billion miles travelled by women over the age of 70, 173 of them are killed or seriously injured in a crash, compared to 63 for male drivers of the same age. Wow, that's a strong difference. The reverse is true. See, I'll qualify this for 17 to 20-year-olds. Male drivers in that age bracket are more than 3 times more likely to be involved in a crash compared to women of the same age. But it's not, and I repeat, not the case that women are worse than men as older drivers. But, because you've got to be careful the way in which you read statistics. What was it? Abraham Lincoln that said those lies, damn lies, and then the statistics. The AA believes the figures are explained by the fact that men are more likely to be the default driver within a marriage as they get older, meaning that women gain less experience driving over their lifetime, and they've got a greater life, and as women have a greater life expectancy, more likely to be driving on their own later in life. Men over the age of 65 are 6 times more likely than women to be the default driver in their relationship. The study of the Office for National Statistics found. I don't think it's men and women. I think it's experience driving. I bought my first car and it had 30,000 miles on the clock, and sold it 4 years later and it had 88,000 miles on the clock, and that's when I knew how to drive. My wife learnt to drive when she was 17, and she would occasionally drive my car and other cars. She didn't buy her first car till she was 35. Because she didn't need one. She was working at capital cities, and she went, no, I need a car now. I've got to do some mileage. And then after she'd done 50,000 miles in the car, I think we still own the same car, I was like, yeah, she can really drive now. It's just an experience thing. And I must admit, I end up doing the driving. I'll just go, I'll drive. I don't mind. I like it. I like it more than she does. She can have a little sleep. And that's the sort of way we negotiate it. So if I'm doing it, my dad does it with his girlfriend. I was just, my mum's now learning to redrive because my stepfather passed away and she hadn't really driven for years. So this is like, I don't think it's a male and women. It's just experience, I think.
Well, I am single. I do drive a Mini and I'm looking. But I don't know that yet. Yeah, for women.
If they're qualified. For ladies. You don't mind if they can drive or not drive?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Anyway, so we shall continue with the Dieselgate news. Dieselgate. Remember Dieselgate with the diesels?
Yes.
If you were listening to last week's show, which obviously you were because you were there, we reported that VW being threatened with fines over failing to deal with the false emission readings given out by their cars being fitted with the so-called emissions defeating software. Well, now it's the turn of Mercedes-Benz.
Oh, okay.
They're next. German prosecutors have fined Benz's parent company, Daimler, 870 million euros for neglect of violation in a case concerning the sales of various diesel models suspected of featuring measures to manipulate exhaust emissions. In a statement, the Stuttgart public prosecutor said the German firm sold almost 700,000 cars that did not comply with EU-mandated regulations on NOx emissions. The fine was issued under the country's Administrative Offences Act. Daimler issued a statement saying that it had waived a right of appeal and considered the matter fully concluded. What does that tell you?
Okay.
The fine is the latest.
Somebody's getting a new swimming pool. That's what it says to me.
Yes.
New Persian carpet and a brand new Mercedes-Benz.
The fine, though, is the latest to be handed down by the Stuttgart public prosecutor in relation to diesel emissions manipulation measures. Porsche, or Porsche, as we discussed previously, was handed a €535 million fine in May when Bosch was fined 90 million as well. So, what is it that the German car industry are doing? What are you doing, Germany, with your cars?
The Bosch make cars?
Yes, it's a big white one where you put the washing in it as well.
Wash your clothes in it. Or they make drills. And anyway, they're not German, they're Swiss. Is it Bosch Swiss?
I don't know, but they must make all the electrics. They must do all the engine management systems.
No, because I had a Bosch washing machine and it was made in Spain. Because my guy came around to fix it. He went, "Oh, those are the ones that are made in Spain, mate. They're rubbish." And I went, "Oh, it's Bosch, it's German." He went, "No, it's Swiss. And that one's made in Spain." I went, "Oh, okay." I don't know what the Germans are up to. You mean they're a bunch of lying bar stewards? What are you doing? I mean, really, I think basically you've got a miscommunication between what is achievable and what marketing want to happen. And marketing want you to be super green and super low emissions. And so that is such a huge behemoth of an organisation that the guys on the shop floor just going, "I don't know, just put some software in, just make it work. Okay, just make it work. Just make it work." And I think that's what happened.
Wouldn't it happen if Dudley Moore was doing the advertising for it?
He would say, "Peter, it's a Mercedes and it smokes really badly, but at least it gets you from A to B and you look cool. Thanks, you next Dad. Tuesday. You see you next Tuesday." Yes, I think you're right. Joan Crawford had one of those as well. I'm sorry, I'm starting to do bits of Derek and Clive. And everybody under the age of 40 is going, "Why are you who? Jackson?" Go on the internet and just enter into Google search Derek and Clive. Was it? I'm trying to remember the name of the album. It was Derek and Clive, wasn't it?
I think it was, yeah.
Oh, I love that. I'm not really. I mean, I think it was 20 years before I was at university, but I did discover the vinyl when I was at university and second and played it and just laughed very much so. Yes. Anyway, that's the news. Time for our classic car selection. Talking 1970s and 60s. That's where we're going back. It's a classic. That can also be used as a daily driver and won't cost the earth. So within the classic car selection, you will find no Ferraris here. This week, the classic hails from good old Blighty via Greece. Think of the man behind the Mini and the Morris Minor, and one would obviously think of the Greek car genius, the man behind Austin, Alec Zigonis. But despite being famed for the design of those two cars, he's really uncredited with designing a car that became the most popular and best-selling design in the UK in the late 1960s and early 1970s. It was built in more than 10 different countries worldwide and exported as far afield as South Africa, Malaysia and Australia. Codenamed the ADO16, the car we're focusing on this week is the Austin 1100 and the Austin 1300, although the same car was also known by many, many other names. So here's the background. In the 1950s, the BMC, the British Motor Corporation, was formed to pull together a list of manufacturers from across Britain who were a bit down on their luck. Names such as Wolseley, Riley, Morris, Austin, Van der Pla, and even Jaguar effectively all came under the umbrella of BMC. And despite this, they all remained fiercely competitive companies, all designing effectively the same car, but with one or two little design tweaks, and all being effectively owned by the same corporation. It's the same thing that happened in America with the founding of the American Motor Corporation, but here it was far less harmonious. And in reality, the roots of the demise of BNC and the corporations that eventually became British Lane and then Austin Rover lay in the amalgamation of these companies back in the 1950s. That's another story for another day. Back in the 1960s, there was hope for the future. There was the white heat of British technology, The empire was gone, but Britain was riding high in business, and car manufacture was at its zenith. The car that won the hearts of the British people and those abroad, though, was a rather dull little car that no one really remembers. Launched in 1960, the AD016 was the first real family car that BMC produced that you could get the whole family into, 4 adults and luggage in the rear. It firstly came with a small but peppy A-Series, classic A-Series 1100cc engine that made almost 55 brake horsepower, but by 1967, made uptick to 1300cc, making almost 80 bhp. You need to think of this car as the precursor to the 1990s Ford Mondeo in the UK. This car was in almost every driveway. Everybody had this car, builders, junior bankers, housewives, pensioners, students. It was everywhere and was often the first car that many people owned and the first car they learned to drive in. Forget the significance of the Model T or the Beetle. This was the car that got Britain motoring. And it wasn't just the Brits. If you're Australian, Portuguese, Italian, South African, Malaysian, Canadian, Maltese, etc., etc., have a look at some photograph albums of your parents, of your grandparents. I guarantee you'll see a version of this car in there. My family had one of these. My parents, my uncle, my granddad used to tow a caravan in his. Now, the AD016 had quite a few variations, and by that I mean it was designed or redesigned by quite a few British and foreign brands. You've got the Riley version, the Austin version, the Van den Plas Princess version, the Wolsey version with the walnut dash as an optional.
Yes.
You had the MG version. I think was the Kestrel, maybe the Morris version, and a myriad of versions abroad like the Spanish Pamplona Orti, and in Italy it was the Innocenti IM3. Australian, it was the Austin Nomad. Weirdly, in Australia, the AD016, and it's the car that followed it, the 1800 Maxi, became known for rallying success. But I digress. Why on earth would you want to own one of these cars? Well, the thing is, they're very cute, very, very cute. They're small compared to today's standards, about the same size as a Honda Jazz, but much lower in height. They've got bulletproof engines, the A-Series engine, which I think was still being used at the turn of the 21st century on the Mini.
Yeah.
They're really easy to work on. No electronics, no computers. They are a fun car to drive. This being said, you're not going to be a speed king, and the vehicle does 0 to 60 in around 15 seconds. And that's on a good day going downhill. You'll also need a garage to store this because of its biggest downfall, the cursed rust.
Yeah.
Ferrous metals, here we come. If you're going to buy one of these, you've got to check on the outside. You've got to check on the inside wings. You've got to check in the boot or the trunk. You've got to check in the engine bay. If the wings are moving or your screwdriver is poking through holes, walk away. They can be money pits, but pick, say, an owner's club car or one that's been well looked after, and say it's been under sealed, you'll be onto a winner. Had a look on eBay. You purchase a 1967 Wolsey version of this car, under 60,000 on the clock, with a good service history and a solid body in, say, usable condition for £2,000. But spend up to around 6,000, and we found an absolutely mint 1300 Van den Plas Princess from 1967, sub 40,000 miles on the clock in harvest gold, with a walnut dash and a full service history and absolutely perfect paintwork with no rust. So why not buy into Alex Isagonis's third best design and be unique out on the road with an ADO 16 or the 1300?
Oh, they are so
classic.
Beautiful.
You must have a family member that's had one of these.
Yeah. I think, as far as I can remember, I think in Mauritius we went into one of them because some were exported there.
Right.
But they are. I think is it the Wolsey version that's got like the little tiny grill on it compared to the really massive one that's on like the Austin. They are really cute cars.
They've also got lap trays that fold down in the back.
Yes.
Fantastic. It's a classic car of a certain period. You can pick them up super cheap. They're disappearing though because they are rusting to death. So please don't go out and buy a rusty one because you'll get really knackered because you'll buy an 800 quid car and it'll need $4,000 spending on it. So don't go down that road. But if you can go to somewhere like Malta, that's another option. And in because Malta is, they obviously obey the rule of the Queen, and they drive on the left-hand side of the road, so their right-hand drive cars. So if you live in the UK, you can buy one of those. The same with Australian cars. They even exported these things to America. I saw one of these things down a back street in Thailand.
Really?
Yeah, I was walking. So there was a lot of these cars made. I was walking down the street and went, that's an Austin 1300. I can only assume it was imported from Malaysia. And Malaysia's obviously next door to Thailand. Cute little car.
Yeah, and our advice is always try and find ones in hot, dry places because then they rust less.
Yes. Our advice. Not in near the North Sea or Scotland. It's time for Lost Highways.
Yes.
This is our feature where listeners email in and give us their favourite roads and the reason they love them. Our email address, of course, is car-boys, boys with a Z, at outlook.com. Car-boys with a Z at outlook.com.
So let's go to an email, and this is going to be an email from Bonnie. Hello, Bonnie from Houston, Texas. Yeah. And she says, one of her favourite drives is a Devil's Backbone. I misread that first time I saw that on the script. Devil's Backbone, which heads west out of Austin from Johnson City on the US 281 and heads south of Blanco into Farm Road 32. She says you'll go past rolling hills and ranches, volcanic limestone mountains, and then on to Canyon Lake State Park. After a dip in the lake, which obviously we like to do, head out towards the Devil's Backbone, overlook on Road 32, mile upon mile of cactus is the perfect place for picture taking and a picnic. Obviously, don't sit next to a cactus because you might get stung. If you then pass through the historic town of Wimberley, famed for Wimberley, famed for the gunfights and ghost stories, where you can explore the dinosaur tracks, fossils, and exhibits on early pioneer life. Then you'll hit the town of Blanco. Here you can visit the old Blanco courthouse, one of the finest examples of architecture in the late 1800s, or consider a stop at Blanco State Park, which offers swimming, boating, hiking, camping, and fishing for rainbow trouts, largemouth bass, catfish, and sunfish.
She's being specific here about the fish, isn't she?
She does. I think she likes her fish.
Yeah.
So Bonnie says it's Texas Hills country, and it's very unexplored and perfect for a road trip. So thank you for that, Bonnie.
That sounds good. You didn't say whether you need to be armed. It's Texas. So I assume when you land in Houston, they just give you a gun.
Or slap them with a fish.
Yeah, slap them with a fish. Or run away. I have actually been out to the boonies in America, not to Texas, but I've been out into the countryside. And there's a misnomer that everybody does have guns, but it does feel very safe. I think crime levels are... I lived in a house up in Vermont in the middle of nowhere, and nobody had keys to the house, and we lived there for a few months. Now, why haven't we got keys? Oh, nobody's going to break into this. Are you sure? Yeah, no. So, I mean, I wouldn't advise doing the same thing in Alphabet City in New York, but it's a different thing. That sounds quite exciting. Lots of unexplored places in America. Coming back to the UK now, and Ian in Glasgow, Scotland. Hello. Says the best driving road in his home country is the North Coast Road, not to be confused with the Northern Coast 500, which is the loop around the top of Scotland. This is described as the best drive by National Geographic. It's the road to Applecross in Western Ross. To the far northwest of Scotland, it's undoubtedly a stunning drive. It literally is a single-track road, and you're unlikely to get above 40 miles an hour. Having looked at the pictures, it's very beautiful, but very thin. Known as Bialach Naba. Excuse my Gaelic.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, the route zigzags to almost Munro height, which is apparently 3,000 feet, before travelling down to the coastal village of Applecross. The road offers a host of breathtaking views, which will make you have to stop and get the camera out on a regular basis. We had a look at this. It does look nice, but you're not going to be zooming down there. It's not a zoomy road. It's a little drive your car nice and slow. It's very narrow.
What car would you probably recommend to go down that then?
A small one with 4x4. I'm thinking a Fiat Panda 4x4 because you don't need speed. Something thin that you can, and also the ability to know how to reverse a car when a tractor comes the other way. You know, have you ever been down? You've been down to Cornwall.
Yes.
And you know, if you've never been to Cornwall, you've got narrow roads with high hedges, and
yes,
I can't explain how you would not get a lot of American cars down this road.
if at all.
No, I went running. I was working down in Devon, near Dartmoor, and I went for a run, and the road got narrower and narrower. The pavement disappeared, and I was running on this path, and then a car appeared, and I went, "Where can I go?" Because there's just banks and then hedge. And sort of he stopped, so I sort of squeezed around him, said sorry, and I carried on running. He waved, no worries. Yes, that's the road. So I'd imagine you wouldn't want a big car to get down there.
Ooh. Finally, in this section, we have an email from Colin in Christchurch, New Zealand. Hello, all you Kiwis out there listening. And he says his favourite driving road is the Great Coast Road. He says it's New Zealand's answer to Australia's Great Ocean Road, not Gold Ocean Road, Great Ocean Road. This historic route is one of the most spectacular stretches along the west coast. Fill up your car in Westport, basically because there's no petrol stations and they're few and far between on this highway, and hit the road south towards Greymouth, named one of the top 10 coastal drives in the world by Lonely Planet. You'll understand why when you drive it yourself. With the Tasman Sea on one side and dense rainforest on the other, the landscape is wild and rugged, a bit like me. Some highlights along the route include the Panakiki Pancake Rocks, ooh, sounds nice, and the Splurting Bowholes, all matron. I think it's talking about Wales, not.
I was wondering how you were going to get through the Punakaiki Pancake Rocks and Spurting Blowholes. I think my brother's done this in a camper van.
All right.
Yeah, he went and he was really into Lord of the Rings, so off he went to New Zealand. Got a camper van, and he. Just a word of warning: in New Zealand, you have to park your car the way facing traffic.
Which makes sense.
Which you really should do. I tend to do that.
I think
it's not a hard and fast rule in the UK, but I tend to do it facing traffic. But he didn't do it because he wasn't aware of it, and he got a ticket.
Wow.
And he went, I've got this ticket, so he gave the car back to the camper van, back to the hire company, and he flew back. He flew back to see me. I was living in Asia at the time, and then he flew back to London, and. Then he wrote a cheque from a British building society and posted it to New Zealand. And I said, did that in sterling? He worked out what the equivalent difference between New Zealand dollars and sterling was. And strangely, they never cashed the cheque.
Wow.
So that's a good way of getting out of fines.
Nice. That's a good plan.
Yeah, I quite like that. But he said it was the most beautiful place to drive around. And absolutely loved it. You've got, he said the ozone is very, very low down there, so you need to put on plenty of ozone. But the views of the whole country are breathtaking because of the fact there's no ozone, and there's apparently the air quality is very clean.
Oh, sounds blissful.
Yes. So okay, that's all the Lost Highways section for today, and it's time to take a look at all the correspondence in this week's Carboys post-sack. As usual, it's bulging with May. First off, Tony in Coventry. He's got a 1995 Ford Ranger. It's on its last legs. Needs a newish replacement. He works in construction. Good grief, I'm surprised it's still going. He's 25 years old. So it must be hardy. Any suggestion, boys? He likes Ford, but could he be swayed? Got to be a diesel, hasn't it?
Has to be diesel, yes. One that isn't lying about how much emissions it's got, but it's always good, diesel. Yeah.
Hilux, Isuzu, go crazy. He could go crazy getting one of those F500 Ford trucks imported from the USA.
Oh, is that is that the F-150 Raptor?
Yeah, that looks amazing. Yeah, but he's not telling us budget. Newish replacement.
Newish. I'm just trying to think what else is there. Yeah, you're right. You got the Isuzu, which comes in. It's got 4 doors on it as well. Yeah, I think
they do a 4-door and a 2-door. It's the D Max in Asia. I forget what it's called over here.
Is it the L something like L200?
No, the L200 is a Mitsubishi.
That's right.
And I wouldn't buy one of those because I don't think they're reliable enough. I've heard bad things about that. The Isuzu is boring and slow, but it's a more reliable car. They're pretty bulletproof. Obviously, the numero uno is the Hilux. the Toyota Hilux is the most reliable of the lot. But if it's a Ford, man, go and get another Ford Ranger. I mean, the thing is, if he gets one with low mileage, he could probably get a 10-year-old one for $3,000, a double cab.
That sounds about right.
And if he's gone down that road, he knows that he's going to be happy with a Ford. You know, why break the habit of a lifetime? They're pretty. I wouldn't get anything like the VW are bringing out pickups. Mercedes are bringing out pickups. I wouldn't touch some of the bloody barge pole because I'm not sure how good they are. Ford have got an established brand with their pickups. Vauxhall have got a couple, haven't they? Or they did a couple, but I don't know whether they've done them for the last few years. If it was me, I'd stick to Japanese, but...
Yeah, or if you stick with the Ford, dealers on every corner, get them fixed quite easily.
Exactly.
Yes, stick with the Ford. Okay, let's carry on. Should we look at an email from Kelly in Northern Ireland, lovely part of the world, Northern Ireland.
Hello.
Her engine management light has come on. She's got a 2002 Honda Jazz. The light is orange. What should she do? I would usually say ignore it because it's usually some kind of sensor somewhere that's just gone a bit. But if I'm not mistaken, I read somewhere this week that if you've got any kind of warning light on in your vehicle, it's a MOT failure.
Yeah, but you just knock it off. You go, this is what I do. So I know somebody, in fact, I'm married to somebody that's got a very old Honda Civic. Yes. And we know why there's a problem. We've fitted, the lambda sensor we fitted in the car is a patent part. It's not made by Honda. Honda have a massive thing about emission levels because it's a Japanese company. The lambda sensor we've fitted is like an 80 quid lambda sensor, not a Honda part. The catalytic converter is a cheap one, not a Honda part.
Yeah.
So the engine management light comes on, and I just get out my little a little computer. Cost me, I think, 15 quid from Amazon, and it's got a SCART socket on the end. I plug that into the car. I go down, and it says emissions issues, and I just knock it off. And then we go another 6 months, and then it pops on again. The car will sit there for 2 weeks, hasn't been used. The wife will jump in it. She'll floor it up the M40. No, she'll drive very sensibly up the M40, exceeding 70 miles an hour, and the light will pop on, and then I just have to knock it off again. And we've replaced everything on there, and basically it's a little sensor. So I wouldn't worry about it. Red, yes. Orange, what I would do, find a dealer that don't take it to Honda, because I don't want to libel anybody here, but let's not talk about manufacturers. Let's talk about generally. Generally, main dealers, pretty much untrustworthy. I would find your local garage, get them to put a proper diagnostic system on, and I'm talking about something that costs £10,000, not something I've bought 15 quid off. Get them to do a diagnostic and find out what's wrong with it. Don't believe if they say, it's emissions or you've got dirty petrol. That's a lie. There is a sensor problem with this car. Get them to find out. Then once you know, then you're empowered and you can say, okay, I'll just knock this light off. It doesn't really mean anything. It's an old car. It's a 17. Well, no, it's a 17-year-old car.
17 years. Yeah. And also, independent garages also well worth going to support local businesses.
Yeah, totally. Because the amount of times I've taken my car to a main dealer, he's given me a list as long as my arm, and I've taken it to my mechanic that I've known for over 10 years, and he'll just laugh and go, no. Oh yeah, they're right about that. No. What do you want to do?
It's a bit like going to the doctors. It's the assumption you don't know what's your car is made of and how it works.
Look, at the end of the day, we're all dying. I hate to tell it to you if you are listening, but you and me and you, Simon, are all dying. It just depends how fast you're going to get there. And in the same way, our cars are all heading towards that great big
scrap
yard, not in the sky, but at the end of our road. They're all rusting. Yes. So it just depends. If you've got a brand new car, then maybe you want to take it to the dealer to have the dealer stamps. If you've got she's got a 17-year-old Honda Jazz. The fact it starts every morning should be a source of joy and celebration for you. Oh, it started once again. Let's go. And at some day, Kelly, you'll be at the side of the road and you will metaphorically have to put a bullet into the head of your Honda Jazz. You will take it into the field and your husband or your partner, maybe your female partner of any sex, not cisgendered here on this show, will say, what happened to good old Yella, the Honda Jazz? And you have to say, well, we had to put good old Yella down. So just look, just keep the damn thing on the road. Andy, 1, 2, 3 from Kansas.
Hello, Andy.
The place, not the band. He's not going to start break into Wayward Son. Contacted the podcast, wants to know what car he should hire in the UK as he's coming here on holiday.
Ooh.
He can't stay with me. He's going to be here for a month next year. He wants something sporty and something European. And I had a quick look for you, Andy. There's 2 big car brands. I mean, there's Hertz, there's Enterprise, there's Sixt, which is 6 with a T on the end. Sixt seem to be quite good. 20% deal at the moment if you book way in advance. BMW 4 Series Grand Coupe Auto, which you may like because you're American and you don't do stick shift. Or if you do stick shift, maybe you're a real sporty guy, they do a BMW 2 Series and a BMW 4 Series convertible. So those are European cars, all rear-wheel drive. Obviously, they're higher cars, so they're going to be the fastest cars on. And you'll have an American license, so you can pretty much do what you want in the UK.
Yeah, that said, there is I know there's a Sixt around the corner from Heathrow, so if you're coming to Heathrow, I know you can just pick up around the corner from there. But that said, convertibles this week, it's been pouring all week here in London
maybe
town.
it's going to be here in the summer. I mean, we are the biggest consumer, as we mentioned on the show earlier, of convertibles in the world.
Yes.
And yet all it does is effing rain. We're a damp rock, as Doug Stanhope, the comedian, said, a damp rock in the middle of the Atlantic. That's the UK.
Very much so. We'll do our final letter. Our final letter is from Alan from Alderminster.
Yep.
He wants a classic 1960s British convertible like the MG BGT or the MGA Austin Healey TR6, but he wants it rust-free. Money not an object, possibly. You're not asking for much if you're looking for rust-free. British sports car convertible.
You got to go. I think you might be lucky and find a rust-free one from over here. I'd want to see that it's been garaged. I'd want to see that it hasn't been driven in the wet. I'd want to see it maybe even is in a heated garage, because that's the worst thing you can do to a car is take it out, get it wet, and then stick it in a damp garage. But there's no breeze, so the moisture can't evaporate off the car. Get yourself go have fun on the internet. Malta's a really good place because the climate's very dry because of the Sirocco that blows off North Africa, and there are loads of British cars in Malta. And again, they drive on the correct side of the road. They blade the authority of the Queen. They drive on the left, and the cars are right-hand drive. Malta, South Africa, California's got loads. Florida, Malaysia. I know certainly I lived in Malaysia, and Malaysian has a bit. They're big fans of the MG. There's lots of MG owners clubs in Malaysia. Australia. You could do this. Have a nice holiday and go and get a nice car. Talking of which, I know you're going to do your quiz, and we're running out of time. Went to a classic car show 2 years ago. And it was a beautiful 1920s Rolls. I can't remember which one, but a Rolls-Royce Grand Tourer in silver, four-seater. And this was a proper Grand Tourer. This had been used in the 1930s to tour around Europe and places in Europe that were slightly dangerous at the time. The Spanish Alps, not the Alps in Spain, the mountain range between Spain and France, Pyrenees. The Alps in Spain. And these were areas of danger back then. You literally had bandits in the hills, certainly in Yugoslavia and Albania. This was a Grand Tourer. The guy that bought the car was telling me that this was the history of the car. And he found it on the internet 10 years ago in Australia, in WA, in Western Australia. So off he goes on holiday, buys the car, beautiful, if you think swept wings, running boards, brings it back to the UK, starts investigating the car, and finds there's a secret compartment in the running board. Opens it up, and inside, on one side, is a Webley handgun, complete with live ammunition.
Oh my
Inside
word!
the other side is a live Thompson machine gun, complete with ammunition that had been in there since the 1930s when the car was built. Because
Brilliant.
this was what you needed to go out into bandit country in Europe. I said, what did you do? He said, well, the first thought was rob a post office or a bank. And then the next thought was quickly phone the authorities and the government then came and decommissioned both weapons. And then he's got them set under little glass screens on the side that shows the car. Or perspex screens. It's very, very cool. Sorry, that's my little story about that. Right, I believe we had a quiz. Would you like some quiz music? Here we go. Talk about yourselves while the internet kicks in. It will any moment now.
Yes, good evening, friends. Thanks for tuning in for another installment of the quiz show everyone wants to win. It's the Carboys quiz, and this week in the booth we have Richard from Southwest London.
Hello.
Hoping to get his grubby little mitts on a much coveted Carboys box set season 1.
Yeah, going to say hi to me mum in Rochdale. Hello, mum.
This week the quiz is called Sister from Another Manufacturista.
Okay.
And while we're not sure what that means, it's the only word that we could really make to rhyme. So what we do know is that the cars, some cars have twins. That's cars that are basically the same underneath. So we were talking earlier on about the Austin 1100 and having lots of different incarnations. Yes. That is the theme for this week's quiz. So we'll start with a very easy one. Easy one. Richard from Southwest London. We've got the 2001 Jaguar X-Type. What is the twin of the Jaguar X-Type?
2001 Ford Mondeo?
It is. Yay! The right answer. 20% of its components, though, were shared with the Ford Mondeo. So,
Ford parts bin. Carry on, sorry.
Absolutely right. 1996 Volvo S40. Lovely car. What was the twin car for that? Think Asia.
Okay, I'm gonna Toyota Camry.
Oh, incorrect. No. The Volvo S40 shares its basic underpinnings with the Mitsubishi Charisma, the most ironically named car, and strangely, the Proton Waja. Is that right? What does that mean, Waja?
Proton Waja. I don't know. Maybe I think it means butterfly.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
That's what it was underneath. Sadly, not the right one. Okay, 1995 Audi A4. What are the twins?
Audi A4. Golf. VW Golf. No! Seat Ibiza.
Nearly. It's slightly bigger.
It's Skoda Octavia.
You know what? I'm going to give that to you. Bing! The A4 was the first born of the triplet of cars, which included the VW Passat, so the bigger one, and the Skoda Superb. Yes, they were the triplets. So you know what? I'll give you half a point for that. Thanks, near enough. Yeah. Okay. Number 4, 2015 Mazda MX-5. So this is quite a recent 2015.
Oh, it's the Fiat Spider.
Yes. Yeah. Ding is the right answer. It's Fiat's take on the world's best-selling 2-seater roadster of all time. It is the Fiat 124 Spider. So very good.
Looks better but less reliable.
Yes, they've done that before, didn't they? There was I'll have to look it up. It was a Japanese Nissan Alpha combination, but it used Italian mechanics and Japanese styling rather than vice versa.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's move on. Being the right answer. Number 5, the 2018 6th generation BMW Z4. Think back to early on in the Carboys history. It's the 2018 6th generation BMW Z4.
It's a Toyota Supra.
Bing! Is the right answer. As mentioned previously on Carboys, the Z4 is the half-sister of the 2019 Toyota Supra made in their Austrian car plant. So, absolutely right. Bing! Okay, let's take it back a bit. The 1991 Peugeot 106, the little tiny 106.
106.
What is the twin sister of the 106?
Hang on. Yes, I should know this. It's the Citroen Saxo.
Yeah. Ding! Is the right answer. Yes, the 106 was the identical twin of the Citroen Saxo. Yes. Many a boy racer in their VTS and VTRs. So, absolutely right. Bing, right answer. Number 7, the Maserati MC12. So, we're moving up a bit. What was the twin?
C12. I'm gonna go right out of the park here and go for Chrysler LeBaron. Don't know why.
That's an unusual one. It's sadly, the MC12 is the ugly sister of the Ferrari Enzo.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. Okay. I know Maserati did something in America in the early 80s.
Yes.
I don't know whether it was LeBaron. MC12. Yes, one of my favourite bands from the late 1960s.
With their sister band, the CB4. So, question number 8, the 2001 Vauxhall VX220. If you don't know what this is, it's the little tiny roadster that Vauxhall made.
Lotus Lees.
Ding is the right answer. Yes, it shares its DNA with none other than the second generation Lotus Elise.
Elise, yes.
Absolutely right. Okay, question number 9, 2008, the Fiat 500. What is the sister car to the Fiat 500? Think logically, think naturally.
Yes, Ford Fiesta.
Oh,
Ford car.
It's Ford car. It is the second generation Ford car that they built in the same Polish factory. Bing, right answer. And last but not least, we have the 2002 Saab 9-3.
2002.
What?
Vauxhall Vectra.
Bing is the right answer. Yes, underneath that sexy Swedish body lay the mechanics of the Vauxhall Vectra. So, Mr. Richard from Southwest London, you've got the Car Boys Season 1 box set of podcast shows. So, do what you like with that box set.
I'll keep it always. Can I have a signed copy? Can I have a signed photograph of both of you?
Yes, of course we will. We'll sign it for you.
You? Can I sit outside your house?
Oh dear! Like, what's his name? Oh, who was the? It was
Alan Partridge.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, that's wonderful. Yes, thank you very much. I'll keep it forever. Right in the bin. That's it for all this week. No more time. We're running over by 2 minutes. That's it from this week. Email the Car Boys at car-boys with a Z at outlook.com. Car-boys with a Z, boys with a Z at outlook.com. Facebook with their Car Boys, car-boys at Car Boys with 4 Zs. That's car-boys at Car Boys 4 Zs at the end. Twitter, car-boys at car_boys. That's car-boys at car_boys. Say goodbye, Simon.
Goodbye, Simon.
Now get lost and get alive. Bye-bye.
Bye.